Congratulations, you are dismissed. Those words lingered in the conference room like smoke. I glanced at Travis Williams, the chief executive officer of Hollowgate Systems, then at the 12 board members arranged around the large mahogany table. No one dared to meet my gaze. My name is Joe. I am 49 years old, and until just 3 minutes ago, I held the position of Chief Technology Officer at the company I helped build from the beginning. 15 years of my life devoted to servers, programming, and countless late nights fixing issues that kept this place running. Travis wore that smug grin he seemed to think made him look clever, the same look he had when he took credit for the network security overhaul I completed last year, or when he announced a merger with Fox Lane Innovations without informing me that they intended to dismantle our entire infrastructure. I proposed, "You should explain to the investors why the entire system will reboot in 10 minutes. As I placed my security badge and laptop on the table, the room fell silent. Travis's smile wavered briefly before returning with full confidence. "What do you mean?" he questioned. I stood upright, adjusting my tie. "The automated maintenance protocol I programmed last month activates every 30 days. It initiates a full system reset and requires manual approval from the Chief Technology Officer to restart. That is me. Or, more accurately, that was me." Board member Patricia Hayes shifted uneasily in her chair. "What does that imply exactly?" "It means I kept checking my watch. In roughly 9 minutes, every server, every database, and all the software that keeps this company running will shut down, and without my approval codes, it will remain offline." Travis's expression drained of color. "You are bluffing," he said. I moved towards the door, but glanced back one final time. "The client presentation for Veltri Dynamics is scheduled to begin in 1 hour. This is a $30 million contract. He might want to figure out how to restart the systems." The chaos began as soon as I reached the elevator. Through the conference room doors, I heard voices shouting. Someone was already dialing information technology, while another called the legal team. Travis was yelling about lawsuits and criminal charges. 8 minutes passed. The elevator doors shut and I descended to the parking garage. My truck was in the same spot I had used for a decade and a half, the very place Travis had attempted to reassign to his nephew last month, arguing that senior employees deserve better parking. I sat in the driver's seat and waited. My phone started ringing. I created Hollowgate Systems from the ground up. It all began in Travis's garage back in 2009 when I wrote software for small businesses needing simple inventory tracking. Travis took care of sales. I managed everything else. We were partners back then, or so I believed. The first sign of trouble came 3 years ago when we secured the municipal contract with Fort Wayne. I designed the entire traffic control system, dedicating 8 months of 16-hour days ensuring every light, every sensor, every backup system operated flawlessly. When the mayor held the press briefing, Travis stood alone at the podium, taking credit for the team's groundbreaking solution. I should have spoken up at that moment. I should have left when he began referring to my ideas as our vision and my code as company property. Yet, I trusted in the project we were creating. I believed that quality work would prove itself. My wife, Kelly, noticed what I failed to see first. She saw me return home irritated, recounting meetings where Travis dismissed my proposals only to present them later as his own. The week after, she listened as I vented about how he hired friends for roles they lacked qualifications for and promised clients features our systems could not support. 6 months ago during dinner, she told me, "He is exploiting you, and when he's finished, he will discard you like last week's newspaper." I tried to defend him, suggesting he was simply under stress from the board, that the company was expanding too rapidly, and things would stabilize after the busy period passed. Yet, warning signs appeared everywhere. Travis began to shut me out of board discussions, claiming they were high-level strategy meetings that did not require technical expertise. He recruited an assistant chief technology officer called Brandon Miller, a recent graduate, supposedly to reduce my workload. However, Brandon spent most of his time in Travis's office. Getting acquainted with the systems I had established meant answering questions about procedures I had never documented before. Roughly 2 weeks ago, I discovered Brandon copying files from my secured directories. When I confronted him, he insisted that Travis had authorized the action for backup reasons. Inquiring with Travis about this, he offered some vague explanation about preparing for an information technology audit. The following week, Travis began asking detailed questions regarding my access credentials. He mentioned that the board was worried about security measures and wanted assurance that several individuals could approve essential tasks. I told him I would consider it. I should have realized at that moment what was unfolding. I should have understood that Brandon was not meant to assist me, but rather to replace me. It should have been clear that every system I had designed, every line of code I had written, was being cataloged in preparation for my exit. Yet, I chose to trust him. After 15 years of collaboration, I still believed Travis Williams was a friend. With only 5 minutes remaining, the call I had anticipated arrived exactly as expected. Travis's name appeared on my phone screen. "Joe, we need to talk." I responded, "No, we don't. Listen, maybe I reacted too quickly earlier. The board has been pressuring me for changes, mentioning bringing in external consultants. I was only trying to protect you." Protect me? The same deceit he had been repeating to himself for months. The identical justification he used when claiming credit for my work, when he employed Brandon behind my back, and when he started excluding me from critical decisions. The systems I had developed were at stake. The reset would occur in 4 minutes, Travis. Okay, listen. What are you after? We can find a solution. Stock options, a consulting agreement, a severance deal. I almost burst out laughing. Just 3 minutes earlier, he had dismissed me in front of the board as if I were a low-level employee caught stealing office supplies. Now, he wanted to negotiate. I told him, "You need to understand something. For 15 years, I have spent nights and weekends building systems that made you wealthy. I have covered your mistakes, fixed problems you created, and watched you take credit for work I did with my own hands. Joe, I am not done. You brought Brandon in to learn my role so you could replace me. You have been planning this for months, maybe longer. The only thing you did not expect was this." From behind the solid walls of the parking garage, I could hear car doors slamming and people running. Someone was probably rushing to the server room, hoping to manually override the shutdown. They had no chance. Years ago, I had learned to design redundancies within redundancies to protect the company's data, even from the company itself. Travis asked again, "What do you want?" His voice betrayed a hint of desperation. I said, "I want you to remember this moment. Remember that for 15 years I was loyal to you. I believed in this company, in what we were creating together, and you discarded it all because you feared looking weak." Standing before the board, the Veltri Dynamics presentation was about to begin in 2 minutes. I continued in 58 minutes. $30 million. Without the demo system, you have nothing to present. Without the client database, you do not even possess their contact details. I could hear voices in the background, people shouting commands, keyboards clicking furiously. "How do I solve this?" Travis asked. "1 minute. You do not," I replied, and ended the call. I fired up my truck and headed for the exit. In 60 seconds, every light in the Holowatt Systems building would switch off. Every computer would power down. Every phone line, every security camera, every device that kept the company running would stop. And for the first time in 15 years, Travis Williams would need to handle a problem without me. The shutdown lasted precisely 4 hours and 37 minutes. I knew this because I sat in Brennan's diner on Coliseum Boulevard, sipping coffee, watching the news on the television above the counter. Technical issues disrupted a local software company, ran the headline at the bottom of the screen, while a reporter stood outside the Holowatt building, speaking with bewildered employees sent home early. My phone rang nonstop. Travis called 17 times. Brandon called 8. Patricia Hayes from the board called twice. I let every call go to voicemail. At 3:15 p.m., the lights in the building flickered back on. I knew they had managed to find a way to manually reboot. The essential infrastructure was likely compromised by retrieving backup drives from the emergency storage and reconstructing the network from the ground up. It would require several days to bring everything back to full operation. At 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mr. Turner, this is David Foster from Foster Collins and Associates. I represent Hollowgate Systems. We need to talk about what you did today," a lawyer stated. Travis was already preparing a legal case against me. I responded that I had not engaged in any illegal activities. "Sabotage is a criminal act, Mr. Turner, intentionally harming computer systems, disrupting business functions, and inflicting financial damage on the company, he warned. The district attorney could be very interested in your actions. I almost grinned. They believed they could pressure me with legal threats, just as Travis had tried to intimidate me with job security threats for months. I implemented a security protocol meant to safeguard company data. I told him the system operated exactly as it was supposed to. If Hollowgate Systems no longer employs competent staff to manage their technology, that is not my concern. You purposely engineered a situation where you were the only one capable of restoring operations. I created a scenario where the Chief Technology Officer had to approve system reboots. I held the Chief Technology Officer role until about 2:30 p.m. today. The lawyer fell silent for a moment. Mr. Turner, I believe you are underestimating the gravity of your circumstances. The Veltri Dynamics agreement was lost because of your actions. $30 million in income. Several other customers faced interruptions in service. The total damage might reach hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions. Travis must have given him exaggerated figures, trying to intimidate me into agreeing. The agreement failed because Travis Williams dismissed his Chief Technology Officer just 10 minutes before an essential presentation. I said, poor management choices are not my problem. We have proof that you established unauthorized access limitations, activated shutdown procedures without board consent, and intentionally withheld crucial information needed for business functions. Now I realize they were not only threatening me with criminal charges, they were preparing a civil lawsuit, accusing me of deliberately harming the company. Travis intended to sue me for losses, attempt to seize all my assets, ruin me financially so I could never rival him again. Document this, I told them. Any lawsuit against me will lead to complete exposure of all Hollowgate Systems security weaknesses to the public. Every backdoor, every unpatched vulnerability, every shortcut Travis allowed against my advice. Let's see how many clients want to stay with a business whose ex-chief technology officer testifies that their systems are deeply insecure. The line fell silent. You are threatening to disclose confidential information. I promised to be honest about the company's technical abilities, even if it meant swearing an oath. After ending the call, I ordered another coffee. About 20 minutes later, Travis called back. Joe, we need to meet in person. No attorneys, no board members, just us. Why? Because things are spiraling out of control. Because we used to be friends. Because maybe there is a way to resolve this that suits everyone. I considered it. Travis was clearly afraid now, realizing that legal threats wouldn't erase his problems. He needed something from me and was finally prepared to negotiate from a position of weakness. The meeting place was Brennan's Diner on Coliseum Boulevard. I said I would come in 1 hour. Deep down, I suspected he wouldn't arrive alone. Travis showed up 43 minutes later, accompanied by Brandon, a newcomer. From my seat, I observed them through the window. Travis anxiously paced the parking lot, while Brandon remained seated in the passenger side of a black BMW I didn't recognize. Probably a company car, another perk Travis had given his favorite new employee. They joined me in a corner booth, Travis appearing tired, Brandon avoiding eye contact. The kid looked tense, likely worried about the consequences his involvement might bring. Coffee? I offered. Travis shook his head. Let us get straight to the point. What will it take to make this disappear? Make what disappear? I replied. Don't play games, Joe. You know exactly what I mean. The legal threats, the flaws in the systems, everything. Name your price. I reclined in the booth. You think this is just about money? Everything boils down to money. That perfectly sums up Travis Williams. For him, it was only about dollars and cents, profit margins, and quarterly earnings. He never grasped that some individuals work for reasons beyond their bank balances. Tell me something, I said. How long have you been planning to let me go? Travis glanced at Brandon, then back at me. It wasn't personal. How long? 6 months, maybe 8. The board demanded changes, sought to bring in younger talent, and cut operational expenses. Brandon's salary is 60% of what we were paying you. 8 months. While I was putting in extra hours to prepare for the Veltri Dynamics contract, Travis was already plotting my replacement. While I trained Brandon, believing I was supporting a colleague, Travis was analyzing my role to take it over. Did you ever plan to keep me on as a consultant? I asked. They originally did, yes, but then you began raising questions about access protocols and commenting on documentation. The board thought you might turn into a security threat. A security threat, because I wanted to safeguard the systems I had built from unauthorized access, because I challenged some of Travis's technical choices in front of clients. "Show him the contract," Travis told Brandon. Brandon pulled a folder from his jacket and slid it across the table. Inside was a consulting agreement offering me $50,000 to assist with the technical transition. "Assistance for 90 days, $50,000, I replied, "for 15 years of institutional expertise. It is a generous proposal, given the situation," Travis responded. I reviewed the contract carefully. Typical non-disclosure terms, non-compete conditions, and a part that requires me to hand over full documentation and access details for all systems and procedures created during my employment. They expected me to surrender everything, every password, every hidden entry, every safety feature I had implemented to safeguard the company. And in return, they were offering what Travis probably spent on business meals in a single month. "There is one issue with this," I said. "What might that be?" "You are assuming I wish to collaborate with you." Travis's expression stiffened. "Joe, try to be practical. You have no job, legal troubles may be looming, and your standing in the sector will be ruined when news spreads about what happened today. This is your opportunity to leave with something. My standing? Industrial sabotage hardly makes a good impression for prospective employers." I smiled and shut the contract folder. "Travis, do you realize who contacted me this morning?" He appeared puzzled. "What do you mean?" At 7:30 a.m., before I even arrived at the office, James Parker from Veltri Dynamics called. He wanted to talk about a role as their new director of information technology. Apparently, they have been monitoring my work for several months, impressed by the security strategies I developed for city projects. Brandon's eyes grew wide with surprise. Travis suddenly looked pale. I explained, "The position offers double what you were paying me before, along with stock options and a signing bonus." Travis replied, "You must be joking," but his voice lacked confidence. I then showed him my phone displaying the missed calls. 7 calls from Veltri Dynamics between 7:30 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, all from James Parker, I said. "He returned the call during your board meeting, leaving a voicemail to see if I wanted to explore new opportunities. The strange part is, he already knew I was planning to leave Hollowgate. He mentioned hearing rumors about imminent management shifts." Travis's expression turned pale. "That can't be true," he murmured. "But is it really impossible? Who has been in charge of Veltri's contract talks all these past 6 months?" The reality struck him hard. Patricia Hayes, the board member strongly advocating for changes in operations, happens to be the former CEO of Veltri's main rival. Over these months, she supplied inside information to Veltri, helping them fully understand Hollowgate's strengths and the key players behind them. Travis whispered, "Patricia orchestrated this." I confirmed, "She's been approaching me since January, through discreet chats at industry events, casual probing about my feelings toward the current leadership, and subtle hints of better prospects elsewhere. I refused at first out of loyalty to you." Brandon was looking down at the table, likely processing that his fresh role. It might not be as safe as he initially believed. If Veltri had recruited Hollowgate's key technical staff, they could underbid every contract proposal and even capture the entire client portfolio. But today changed my perspective. I continued explaining that when you dismissed me in front of the board, you demonstrated that 15 years of collaboration meant nothing. So I reached out to James Parker once again. Travis grabbed his phone, saying, "I need to contact Patricia. I have to learn what she's planning." "It's too late for that," I replied. "What do you mean?" he asked. I checked my watch. At 5 o'clock this evening, Veltri Dynamics is announcing they have acquired Hollowgate Systems' intellectual property assets. They have obtained the rights to our traffic management software, municipal database platforms, and client integration procedures. That's impossible. We own these systems. You retain the code, but I hold the patents. A heavy silence fell over the table, stretching like an abyss. Travis's mouth opened and closed without a sound. Brandon appeared as if he might become unwell. "The patents," Travis finally found his voice, "are registered in my name and have been for the past 5 years. Every significant system upgrade, every security measure, every innovative piece of code was documented. My lawyer assured me that as the original inventor, I preserved intellectual property rights independent of any employment contracts. It was true. My attorney had recommended years prior that I patent my major breakthroughs, partly to protect my work and partly as a point of pride. I had never imagined I would need that leverage against my own company. The traffic. The management system alone holds a licensing fee value of $8 million, I explained further. Integration with the municipal database adds an additional $12 million. Security measures, client management tools, and backup fail-safes contribute to the overall worth. Veltri estimates the entire portfolio at $37 million, exceeding the value of the contract Travis lost by terminating my employment. This amount is greater than Hollowgate's annual income and could force the company out of business if a rival gained control over the technology. "You cannot do this," Travis insisted. "I already completed signing the licensing agreement an hour ago. Veltri acquires exclusive rights to my patents for 5 years. In return, I receive a director role, shares in their company, and 20% of all licensing revenues." Travis looked at me as if I had sprouted a second head, mirroring the shock he showed earlier when I explained the system reset. The expression of a man who realizes he severely misjudged the situation. "What will happen to Hollowgate?" Brandon asked in a low voice. "That depends on Travis," I answered. "Veltri is open to negotiating a licensing contract that would permit you to keep using my patents for a fee." "How much?" The response was 55% of gross income. The figure lingered in the room like a final verdict. The bankruptcy filing followed 6 weeks later. I was seated in my new office at Veltri Dynamics, going over system design plans for a municipal project in Phoenix when my assistant delivered the news that Hollowgate Systems had filed for Chapter 11 protection, citing unmanageable operating expenses and losses. Travis had tried to resist by employing 3 separate law firms to dispute my patent claims, and even attempted to have me apprehended on charges of corporate spying. None of these efforts succeeded. The patents were valid, the licensing contract was unbreakable, and my exit from Hollowgate had been entirely his own decision. He also endeavored to function without my technology. For a fortnight, Brandon and a group of contractors worked to reconstruct the infrastructure from the ground up, developing new software to substitute the patented algorithms. The outcomes were catastrophic. Client databases failed, security measures collapsed, and the traffic control system in Fort Wayne was down for 36 hours, causing widespread disorder in the city. Legal actions soon followed. Fort Wayne filed a lawsuit for breach of contract, and 3 other municipal clients canceled their agreements. Veltri Dynamics, equipped with my tested systems, quickly stepped in to acquire every abandoned contract. Patricia Hayes resigned from the Hollowgate board just 2 days before the company declared bankruptcy. She had already accepted a consulting role with Veltri, assisting in the integration of acquired assets and managing the transition of former Hollowgate clients to new systems. Brandon Miller lasted only 3 months before Travis had no choice but to dismiss him. The young man lacked the qualifications necessary for the role he had been hired to perform. Without my systems to oversee, there was insufficient technical workload to justify his salary. Eventually, he ended up leaving. Accepting a position at a small startup in Indianapolis, earning only half of what Travis had guaranteed him, was a tough pill to swallow. The final defeat occurred when the bankruptcy court approved the sale of assets. Veltri acquired Hollowgate's client roster, office tools, and remaining intellectual property for an amount less than the legal fees owed by Travis. The business that had taken 15 years to develop was completely dissolved in a single afternoon. I chose not to attend the auction. Rather, I spent that Thursday morning collaborating with my new team on a security enhancement for the Indianapolis airport. Genuine work, meaningful technical challenges, projects that would be credited to those who designed them. Kelly met me for lunch at a diner close to the Veltri offices. She had been a constant source of support throughout the entire change, never questioning my choices or suggesting that I should have handled things otherwise. "Any regrets?" she inquired while we ate soup and sandwiches. I reflected and replied, "I thought about it. Travis Williams had ruined our partnership, betrayed 15 years of trust, and attempted to claim credit for what was essentially my life's work. However, his actions also released me from a situation that was gradually draining my enthusiasm for the work I cherished. None." She smiled warmly and said, "Good, because James Parker called this morning. He wants to talk about growing your team at Veltri." At Veltri, my ideas were appreciated, my efforts acknowledged, and my name listed on every patent application. The signing bonus had allowed us to pay off our mortgage and the stock options. The income would cover our retirement. The paycheck allowed Kelly to dedicate herself to her art full-time, fulfilling a dream she had nurtured for many years. Travis Williams, by contrast, worked as a regional sales manager at a software firm in Cleveland. I had learned through industry sources that he was earning roughly 30% of his previous salary, living in a modest apartment, and telling anyone who would hear him that his former business partner had taken over his company. Brandon, оставляем, поскольку имя широко используется в англоязычных странах, Miller had secured a job fixing outdated systems for a business specializing in the upkeep of legacy software. Patricia, оставляем, так как это распространенное имя в англоязычных странах. Hayes earned more money as a consultant than she ever did as a board member, assisting other companies with acquisition strategies. The reality was straightforward. Every action has its repercussions, and ultimately everyone faces the consequences of their decisions. Sometimes the payoff takes longer than expected.